This is 2OF Entertainment.
And here we are.
Well, good day to you. Yeah,
Day to you.
another day. And yeah, we're having an inside day today. I'll call it that. We're having a snowy day here in Canada, and so we're all tucked into the studio here, and we got another warm conversation coming up. Today we have I guess I won't say famous artist, but basically she's well known in her area and across the country. Her name's Kate Taylor. She's got a BFA degree from Western University in painting. She's prolific in amount of stuff she does. She's got galleries across Canada and the States as well, and she attends art events throughout the year across the border as well as in Canada. And I don't know how she keeps up with doing that amount of work, and she's quite an advocate for artists. But today she's going to share with us how we as artists can, I guess, participate in art events. We're going to go through a whole bunch of art events from coast to coast, things that we're not going to hit every one, because there's one every weekend in every city across the country. I'm sure there is. So, but we'll talk about that a little bit. But I think we're gonna highlight a few of the premium ones that are across the country, and these are for people to attend. You want to buy good artwork and look at good artists, and these are the things to go to. These are the regional artists that are people come from different regions to go to some of these ones and attend some. They're major events for some artists. And buyers come to these things in credible venues. But anyway, she's going to help lend her experience.
What we should be saying to everybody is go to Canada this year for your holiday, and go to all the art shows. That's the way to go.
We are encouraging that. Yeah, buy Canadian has always been a good thing. And buy European, we love that. But I think beyond that, we do sell artwork into the States as well, and I don't think that's. We're going to talk about how to get get your artwork over the border in a normal situation, and so she's got some expertise that's going to help us as artists figure out how to do a better job of what we do. Let's bring her in. Let's bring Kate in.
Okay, let's bring her in. Okay.
Her nice smile for the morning.
Hello, how are you?
Hi.
There you go.
Hello, Kate. Well, look, I'm going to leave you guys to do the rest of the show. Have a great show, and maybe speak to you at the end. Take care. Bye-bye.
Sounds awesome. Wow, that was kind of embarrassing.
Let's stop. A little bit of a break. Oh, I raised you up on a bar, and now you have to attain that bar and go over top of it. You keep reaching. Well, that's what an artist has to do, right? Well, nothing wrong with failure. You just got to get up and brush yourself off and move on.
I totally agree.
And understanding that. Well, I think you understand there's a lot of support things around you that you can go to. When you feel you're down or when you're not meeting things, when you go a walkthrough. I mean, I did mention we're going to talk about some of these events that we go to. You go to a lot of events. Where are some of your favorite events that you've been to? We'll do that before we talk about your journey a little bit. But
Sure.
Where are some of the venues that are some of your favorite ones?
Well, first of all, I have to say I'm probably a little bit of an anomaly as an artist because I am an extrovert, and I do not do well if I spend all my time in my studio. So one of the reasons I do a lot of the shows is I really love to reconnect with the communities that I've built at each of those shows. So, for example, I really loved doing Art San Diego, which it was a different and more international group of artists that I met across kind of the US and some in Canada, which was great. The Artist Project is a big one for me. It kind of, I think, started my career. I think this is my 13th or 14th year doing the Artist Project. I love the community. I love the show. I love the audience. I love everything about that show. And in terms of outdoor shows, probably the Riverdale Art Walk. And again, that was the very first show that I did. So it kind of has a place in my heart. But also, again, I feel like that's the first show of the summer. I haven't seen people over the winter. It's a great way to kind of reconnect with my community and kind of get the gossip, figure out what people are doing, things like that. So my reasons for the shows I like, I realize are all like personal people reasons versus, I mean, I do quite well for shows. Obviously, commercially, they make sense to do, but I choose the shows to do because I like the people, I think.
Yeah, they are social events, and I think sharing knowledge and, what are you doing this year? Because you haven't seen somebody for a year. A lot of times if you come back, do you encourage artists to go back regularly? Don't just do a one-time show, come back for multiple years. Is that probably the best way?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I am also one of those artists. I know there's some people that kind of say you should go to a show, you should visit it, you should see if there's a good vibe or not, and then apply the next year. For me, I kind of feel like I would rather just kind of jump in and try the show. But I have committed to myself, I usually do the show for 3 years. And some of that is because sometimes I'll show up and the work isn't right match for the audience that's there. And it takes a while to kind of figure that out. And I think the only way to figure that out is to do the show. And, sometimes it's crappy weather or something, the stock market has dropped the day before. So there's a whole bunch of other external reasons that I don't think the show isn't necessarily to blame for those. So that's kind of my philosophy.
Right. Yeah. Consumer confidence as well. Well, we'll talk a bit more about that as we get into our program here, but I'm going to get David to start up our first image, and we'll just go from there. We'll just go off to the side a little bit here, and we'll yak here about it, what images we see. So your art journey, it's a very recognizable style. Like, when you look at your work, I can say, she doesn't have to put her name on this one. I know who this is. How important is that? Yeah,
I think it's really important. I've got a background also in marketing, so I mean, I'm always aware of my brand, my Kate Taylor brand, and I think there is a way to being able to retain a consistent brand, like you say, so people can kind of look at that painting and go, oh, that's a Kate Taylor, without being hemmed into always having to do the same thing. And I can't say that I honestly consciously created something. It's like, I'm going to create a brand. This is what I'm going to do. I just kind of followed my heart and did what I loved. And what happened was I had work in the front window of Petrov Gallery, and a client said, oh, I was just driving by the gallery and I saw your work in the window. And I thought, wow, you're driving by in a car and my work is recognizable. And that's when I kind of realized that, yes, I have created a brand that is consistent and that is recognizable to me. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I think, well, your work is kind of, you call it, it's kind of it's a joyful interpretation of nature.
Yeah.
Whether it be gardens or underwater vegetation or sky and water and florals, it could be, it's kind of like you're leaving it to the person as to what they want to perceive in your works. They are somewhat abstract, but they still do have a natural look about them in a way, if you want your mind to go down that road, and they're vibrant and colorful. I mean, they add a spark to a room.
I would say, I would kind of refer to my stuff as abstracted landscapes. Like, I think that's kind of probably an accurate representation, but for me as well, like you talked about the joy, I want the work really to spark joy. I know there's 1,000 artists that are inspired by nature because nature is awesome. But for me, really, I'd say it's probably the strong, saturated color that is kind of known for me. It is bright and happy. I don't paint angst. Doesn't mean I don't feel it. I just don't feel like I want to necessarily have other people have that on their walls. And I also work with a palette knife only, so it's very textural. And that's also something that is a little bit of a unique identifier, I guess. Not a lot of people outside of Quebec really paint with a palette knife.
Yeah. So I think so you'll sit down and figure out a palette, a color that you feel of the day, whether it be a teal background or whether it feels like a nocturnal feeling or some of those things. Is it within you before you start, or is it just when you start? Like you've got to have a base decided upon. Like some of your work you depend on the grain of the wood to show through. So you've got to plan. There is planning. It's not just spontaneous only.
Yeah, there's definitely some conscious kind of mark making. So the panels I really love to celebrate the wood grain, and my panels are made for me so they have really interesting, beautiful wood grain. And I will stain those based on the colors that I want to, what I'm feeling that day. And often I live with those panels for actually a long time because some of them are just amazing panels, and I haven't quite figured out what to paint on top of them to celebrate the wood grain, but also have something that's got that kind of consistency. And unfortunately, you can't really see them usually in photographs. And my palette is about 45 colors. So I put all of my colors on the palette all of the time. And really, those are kind of partially my favorite colors. And I have a commitment to myself that I tend to use all the colors on my palette. So typically what happens is I use all my favorite colors first, and my less favorite colors are left at the end. And I force myself to use those too. So it kind of creates a little bit of an intellectual exercise, I guess, but also just kind of allows me to kind of make sure I have that depth of color so everything doesn't sort of kind of look all the same.
Right. Yeah. So it's, I guess they're just, they feel at times they could be falling leaves, they could be butterflies, they can be, like you said, this mark making is, they're very gestural. I mean,
yeah,
sort of like watching, were they starlings that create all those patterns in the sky?
Murmuration,
yeah. Right? And you kind of go, and they change, they completely change all the time. They'll overlap and create saturations, and they just keep moving. I sense that from some of your work a little bit, that they could be doing those kinds of things. And they kind of rejuvenate after you've done 20, 30 of them. How do you find the energy to find that new vision, like the new look, the new variants? So somebody has one of your pieces, it might be a small one. They want another one, but they want it to be a little different than the little one that they've got. So there has to be enough variety in what you do. So how do you plan that? Like little ones, medium, and large? Is there a plan to?
There's a lot of questions in there, Paul.
Is it planned around your shows a little bit?
A little bit. So first of all, in terms of the style of the work, I paint flat. So I don't paint on an easel. I don't actually have an upright. There isn't like a top and a bottom. There's a few that are like that, but typically they're not. And one of the reasons for that, you kind of mentioned earlier that you can kind of see it in different ways. I like to be able to create a piece that you can actually hang in any orientation, and it works in any orientation. And I like that intellectual challenge of making kind of that work, which is why I don't sign the front of my work. It's always signed on the back. In terms of sizes, and part of it I think is I'm a process painter. Like for me, I love the process of doing it. To me, that's where the creativity comes from. And the final painting is kind of a little bit of the end result of that creative experience that I'm having. And it's one of the reasons I have no problem selling my work. Like once it's done, I love it. I'm happy for it to be on someone else's wall. I don't feel the need to keep it because I feel like the experience that I've had in creating it has been done. It's been completed.
Right.
And so with that, I tend to work, I have these little pieces, 6x6s that I call my little treasures. A friend of mine calls them my gateway drugs because people will often buy them. And then eventually, like you said, they want something bigger later on. And I'd say about 40 or 50% of my work is actually commission work. So people might come to me and say, I love this little piece I bought. I want something larger. I want it to be a little bit different. And I have a zero risk commission policy. So we work on that. I kind of ask them what they want. I try and intuit what they really want versus sometimes what they say they want, which can sometimes be a little bit of a challenge. Produce something. If they don't love it, they don't have to take it. And so that again allows me to do the piece the way I want to do it. It allows me to kind of still have that vibe of creating the way I want to create. So I don't feel stifled in doing those pieces.
Right.
I think it's important, like you alluded to have something within a booth that is something for everybody. I mean, some people love the big pieces, but it's not in their budget right now, and that's totally fine. There's a good chance they'll come back 5, 6, 7 years later and buy something. So I have small pieces that are very affordable, that are very spontaneous purchases. I do a lot of circles. I'm kind of really into these bubble walls now. So circular pieces that can be built on. So the work is designed to mix and match. So you can buy a little treasure from me 5 years ago. You can buy one tomorrow. The sides are the same, so they work together. The color palette is the same. So they are designed to be continually added to. So it allows people to buy at the level that they can financially afford.
Yeah. So say over 4 years, they buy 4 12 by 12s. So those 4 could sit together as boom, 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 right? Like
Yeah.
4 in a block, they could sit and form a block with space between them and look unique and be a nice, they cover a large. So it's a planned thing, buy long term with me, buy one now, one next year, one at the next show. And pretty soon you have 4. They're all nice sizes, and they know the colors go together, or they can complement the things. And it's a great tool to remember and think long term more so than short term. Yes, you need to make money right now, today, as an artist, and pay for your booth and all your overhead and your expenses. And there are expenses when you have a show. They're not just show up and it's free.
Unfortunately, yes, that's true.
Well, I think I saw last year online that one of your tents fell apart, right? So
yes,
in the wind, you thought you'd leave it up for the fall at your cottage where you work from now, and I kind of laughed because I said these things are pretty light, basically pretty light. I mean, they're meant to have the air go through them, but as soon as you start blocking the air, they become kites, and they lift off and they tear their canvas or I don't know, made out of naga hides of some kind. I don't know what vinyl, I guess, is the word.
Yeah.
So you got to replace them. It comes down to, so are these, I guess, these shows with the tents in them, are the tents individually owned by each individual artist?
It depends. There's a lot of shows that you can rent a tent with the show. Okay. Some shows have requirements, so you have to have a white tent. You can't have a blue one or a purple one or whatever, which honestly, artists should be showing in a white tent anyway, because otherwise it casts color on your work. I'm a bit of a control monger, I guess. So when I started, I kind of decided I wanted to control my environment as much as possible. So I do have my own tent and my own walls. And so I know when I show up that it's very predictable for an outdoor show. That tent that actually collapsed, I think I had it for about 12 years. So it must have done over 50 outdoor shows. So it didn't really owe me anything, but you're right. At some point you kind of have to replace it. But,
yeah. Well, I don't think they're a lot of money now. They make different qualities of them.
Yeah.
Like $500 to $1,000, depending on how stable you want them to be and how big you want them to be. But there's usually constraints is how big they can be. They're 10 by 10s basically. They gotta sit within a designated space unless you buy a double space or rent a double booth space, and your costs go up dramatically.
For sure. I think also you have to think about, like, strategically, like, number one, am I doing enough shows that it makes sense for me to buy a tent versus rent it? Do I have the physical ability to lug this tent from my storage unit to my car and put it up by myself? Do I have help? So there's a whole bunch of things that I think you have to think about. And this is, I think, where the important part of the business of running an art business is super important and is separate from the business of creating the art. And I think this is where it really behooves artists to really think about, like we were talking about, having different sizes and having a zero risk commission policy, and whether or not you're going to buy your tent, which shows you're going to do, has to kind of be within a bit of a business plan. I have a business plan, and I have a sales target that I work with every year, and that helps to keep me focused, not stressed, but focused.
Yeah. I think most artists probably do not have a business plan, and it's there are courses on it, and you can take through Carfax. They have them, and different places have different courses. Yeah. And I encourage people to, think of yourself as a business person a bit. I mean, you like to be creative and not be tied down. I know I go through it myself, and some days you stray from the plan. You fit one other little pop-up thing that goes into place, and so why did I do this?
Oh, that's totally me. It happens totally every year.
Plan. And but you have a friend who asks you, or the space became available, or there's all kinds of things, and you think,
it just looks like it'd be really fun to do.
Yeah. Anyway, this was an indoor one, and I don't know where.
So that is the Artist Project. And this is kind of another example where often when I talk about brand, people are like, I don't want to be pinned down. I want to do what I want to do, which is totally cool. And you can see here that there's a number of different styles. So I work in about 5 or 6 collections at the same time. The one that's at the back wall is my color field collection, and I launched that at the Artist Project last year. And so it's on canvas, and it's fully textured, versus the ones you can see on behind me are on the wood panel. The red one and the dark one are on wood panels. And so that's using my Energy in Motion collection, and it's kind of the wood grain is super important, and then it's palette knife work. And then I have my bubble wall that kind of rolls around those ones. And so this is again where, I don't feel I'm constrained, even though the Energy in Motion is my most popular collection, that I always have to do that collection. But I've been very strategic about moving from one collection to another, introducing a new one while still having the old. I still work in all those collections at the same time because I think they're fun. Yeah. And I still get to kind of explore different ways of painting, but they still look like a Kate Taylor. And that's how you can kind of not be constrained with having to do the same thing all the time, but still have a body of work that you're not kind of, I've just spent 5 years building my audience around this collection and now I'm abandoning it to do something new. Like that's really a bit of a challenge if you're trying to build a consistent business for your art.
Yeah, you don't want to be just straight production only. So you have a customer who maybe bought a piece that was, say, 10 years ago, and they finally said, I want another piece, but I want it to be in that same style. Yeah. So you're able to do that. So you can go back and forth. I know some artists kind of move on and say, no, I'm doing it. This is what I do now. And I'm not going back to what I did 15 years ago. But I always thought that an artist is usually 10 years ahead of their audience at any one time.
Yeah.
By the time people are ready to buy something, they're seeing work that they saw years ago of your stuff. And they said, finally, I want to buy one of those style of work. And you come in and you realize you've changed your palette. You've done a bunch of other stuff. You're now going down this road and I don't do that anymore. Right. And you just, it's one of those things that an artist has to make a decision about, those commission things. Right. And setting up a customer who thinks they don't think about that. They just think you always paint or you create art in that same manner. I have a friend who is a potter, and he said he'd made this bowl or a vessel of some kind years and years ago, all in the pattern. The cups matched, all the plates, bowls, and everything, and they broke one of these bowls. And so they come to him. He said, can you make and match the glazing and match everything on this thing? It's brutal. And he said, yes, I can do that. He had it all written down, and he knew how to do it, and he put it on his thing to do. And it was a custom redo because he had to you don't mix up a big batch of glaze. You mix up a specific amount for that one piece, but he was able to do it, and nobody else could do it because there was a unique way. The texturing and things that were on it were unique. And so you're kind of forced to go back to the same artist, which is a great thing to do because it's like nobody else is going to get this commission because nobody else can do this. And if you want a matching thing, so it's a nice thing to be able to go backwards if you can in your field, or sometimes artists just say no, just say I'm moving on, I do my thing. But,
I think ultimately at the end of the day, that's an artist's choice. I mean, I would say that Potter obviously has a very good business sense. If he had records like that, he was able to go back to. And I think a lot of
his wife did.
Well, that's even better. He doesn't have to worry about it. But I think I think also just I think you're right. Like it's that people will come to me with a postcard they've had for 5 years. I'm like, I'm finally got my condo. I'm finally ready for my piece, right? And I find those commissions really rewarding because it's like, wow, that person's been thinking about my work for 5 years. They've been planning for it. They've been saving for it. And they know exactly where it's going to go in their new condo. Like, I think that's such an honor as an artist to create something for them. But I have to say my work also just really lends itself to those zero risk commissions. If I was a portrait artist or something, then that would be quite different. And I think each artist has to figure out what works for them. But I just want to say that this collection that you see in this painting, the Colorfield collection, was actually my very first collection. It's what I started off doing. And I moved away from it. And last year I kind of thought, I feel like my technique is more sophisticated. I think I can resurrect or rework that collection in a way that's fresh and new. And is exciting, but is just more sophisticated than what I was doing, 18 years ago, which makes sense, right? You kind of move as an artist. So for me, I like that challenge of bouncing back and forth.
So these pieces, like on the back wall there, they could be horizontal if you wanted them to, in the way you would like it. So people, and you talk to them about that in the booth space when they're talking, well, I'd like something above the bed. So, well, this one would work. Turn it just horizontally and it would be a nice long thin piece that would fit in a room. So giving people ideas as to where they can fit. A long little narrow hallway, at the end of the hallway there's a beautiful little space here for that one, long and vertical, but someplace above a doorway, those long narrows, those 1 foot, 4 foot, they're 12 by 48s. They kind of go long and narrow and finished. And what is your feeling on framing and presentation?
So I typically have my sides are always the same color. They always do them in this iridescent silver again, so they match everything. Unless I do a commission and somebody wants something special, which is no problem. I have only recently started framing my work, and partially that was because my colors typically had been very strong and dramatic. So on a typical wall, which usually are very neutral whites and light grays, the painting popped. This new collection is a little bit softer, and so I do frame them now because I just want to have that separation of the art and the frame. But I finish all my stuff. You don't have to frame it.
Right.
So it's because framing can be expensive, and it also can be really personal. Like I know there's been people that are like, oh, but I don't like the frame. I'm like, well, the frame is really easy to pop out, but people don't always know that when they're coming to an art show.
Yeah, frames a lot of times are meant for protection. They protect your work initially. That's what they're about. I mean, you make things so they'll fit into your vehicle to start with, especially when you go to shows, right? I don't build anything wider than like 48 inches. I know it'll fit in my vehicle.
Yeah.
And then when you start stacking things, so you don't want them to get damaged. So frames help keep them things from touching other ones and bagging things properly. And I mean, artists know that already. But this piece here, I really noticed the wood. We talked about that. This wood grain that shows through, and it's interacting with the paint, like it's becoming really a part of. It's as important, really, as the paint and the imagery that's been put on the bottom half of this panel. And you work on wood panels on a lot of them.
So all of my energy and motion collection is on wood because the wood is really important, and I really like that. I guess that organic connection to nature, which is kind of where all the inspiration comes from. And you can see I often leave the center of the painting, which is usually where you'd have your focal point, is usually blank, or that's where the wood grain is, what's where the background is. And I almost feel like I never want to call it a background because it makes it feel like it's not as important as the foreground. But for me, that is very important. And I use, on this one, I've got about 5 or 6 different colors of stain, and I've got about probably 3 or 4 layers of stain. So I really gradually build up the thin layers of stain so I can blend them, and also so that I don't obliterate the wood grain, because if I move too quickly or if it's too thick, I lose the wood grain.
Yeah. I think these look like a birch panel as well. They're probably the traditional ones that we buy from the different material stores.
I like the Baltic birch. I've tried a number of other woods, but the Baltic birch allows me to get really deep saturated color because it absorbs, but it also has a nice wood grain versus like a maple. It's too hard, so the colors are all very pastel-y. So that's been kind of fun too, just experimenting with different woods.
You look at the quality of Baltic birch on the panel itself. The multi-lambs that make it up are finer than traditional plywood. So there's a lot of very fine layers of plywooding that goes on with the finished piece on the top. They tend to be more stable. You don't get quite the warping and twisting. They can twist a little bit when they get big, the big pieces, but not very much. That's why I like the Baltic birch.
Yeah, and I have my panels specially made for me, and I would say over the last 15 years, I've maybe had one that's kind of torqued. So they really shouldn't, because they are kind of all kiln dried. I know I'm a pain in the ass for my woodworker because I'm like, I want nice grain with no black marks and no plugs, and it has to be this orientation. So it's so I can get kind of what I want because it's such an important part of the composition. And as I said, I'll live with these for a while to figure out what do I want to cover and what do I want to leave.
Do you usually seal the back side as well?
Not the back. No, okay. I do seal the wood because after it's stained, the grain is very open. So it is. I found this out by accident. I was doing an outdoor show and it was raining and it landed on the panel and it sort of put raindrops on it. So I do seal that with a clear varnish.
Yeah, I know some people they varnish the backs as well too, because moisture changes from location. If you're in San Diego, there's a different kind of moisture than there is in Toronto or Saskatoon, where I am. In the arid, it's quite arid, so everything dries out a lot, and you can have cracking. You can split your panels apart because it's so dry. But sealing up the back avoids the moisture coming in from behind and affecting what's happening with your plywoods. So, but anyway.
I don't, and partially maybe that's because by the time I finish with the panel, it can be quite wet. because I've used a lot of like very thin kind of layers.
Yeah. And you use oil acrylics, correct?
Yes, acrylics, and I use like a golden acrylic medium. So the medium again, or the liquid acrylic, is very high saturation of color. So it's not watered down. I use an airbrush medium. It's just kind of, so I want to really retain that intensity of the pigment.
Yeah, you notice that when you wet it and you do glazing with it, because it's water based, it will raise the grain on the wood. So sometimes you need to do a little sanding, and then you get back in and put another.
I sand them, I prep it, I stain it, I sand it again, I varnish it. Like the background actually probably takes more time than the foreground, actually.
Yeah, there's lots of work in preparation.
Yeah.
So this is, I guess, the artist project.
Yeah.
There's some images that I had found. These aren't ones from you, but showing that it's not just two-dimensional works. There's three-dimensional works that are presented, and you said this is a good one for artists to go to.
I'd say that this is the premier art fair of Canada. I'd say it draws artists from across the country, and it's very well curated and juried. It's quite hard to get into, and it's one of those shows too where I find that that's a show where audiences attend certainly because they have an appreciation of art, versus a lot of shows that you do. It's kind of like, there's craft and there's jams and there's art and there's music. And so the art is not a focus. With this show, the art is a focus. And people actually come with, here's a picture of my wall. This is the size I need. This is what I'm looking for over my couch or, above my fireplace. And it is, it's actually coming up. It's I think the last weekend in March. So of course, all the artists, including myself, are like doing our last minute painting right now. But it's a great show. It's a great vibe. It's really nice too, because I think people get to then talk to the artists and understand kind of their motivations and stuff, which is different from going through a gallery where the artist is very removed from the collector, and then it becomes just about the art. And I do think that for me, myself, when I buy art, I like to know the artist. And for me, the artist is such an important part of the piece I'm buying. It's kind of part of the experience.
Yeah, they can give you that story that you're looking for in the piece of work. And I think it's just one of those things. So you find you're going to get all levels of artists to this one, emerging through professional artists that are working on a daily basis as a career. That creates that high quality bar, that great work. Great that it's a juried show. About 3 days, is that what it runs?
Yeah, it starts Thursday night and goes to Sunday. And I would say most of the artists, are probably sort of mid-career, making a good portion of their income from the art. It's quite an expensive show to do, so you have to have the money to invest in it. But then they have the untapped, which are often emerging artists, and that's awesome to kind of see some of this just really new, innovative stuff they're doing. In this particular picture, they've just also started doing installation pieces as well, which again just kind of, I think, broadens the collector's mindset in terms of, art isn't just the 2D on the wall. It can hang, it can be sculpture, it can be interactive, it can be fiber. Like there's so many different things kind of that art can be.
Well, I know you're doing some installation stuff too. We just didn't have time to put everything that you do in this short time in this show, but we'll have to have you back. Maybe we'll have an installation show in conversation with a number of artists. Awesome. Yeah, so we would look at that and across the country and see what kind of installation stuff's happening. Always good to have some new ideas that rather than just painting. And I mean, not that I don't like the variety that's out in painting, but it's really nice. Sculpture is so tactile in a different way. You can walk around it. It interacts differently with you. It's sort of like going around and looking at the backside of the painting.
Yeah.
You can't see that. It's against the wall. Where in sculpture, they encourage away from the wall, and it means something from a different angle. It influences the environment that it's in. It's influenced by the environment that it's in. Everything that, it can respond to the paintings that are on the wall. I mean, it opens up a whole other thing to the buyer, as the confidence in having a piece of three-dimensional in their home or their office or outside their building is a monumental sculpture of some kind. So.
Oh, absolutely. And I find it's interesting because my work in galleries is often paired with glass, like sculptural glass pieces. I think because of the colors and kind of that vibrancy.
I haven't seen yours, and I see yours being little Kandinsky things hanging from wires and twinkling and just be moving around. They could be very,
yeah. It's basically, I do it with my sister, who's also an artist. So it's called Sister Plus Sister, and it's an interactive handmade paper installation. So you walk through it, and you're the visitor walking through it actually creates all these drafts that shift the art. So it's about the butterfly effect and how small actions can have large repercussions.
Is that some of the stuff you were developing on your retreat in France? Some of those things you were working on?
Yep. So again, Helen and I decided, as artists, we were talking about this before, breaking beyond your kind of patterns. We thought, let's go to this retreat and not do painting. I had always wanted to do handmade paper. Helen hadn't done it at all. So it was really taking a flyer. Like, we went there and we did not know what we were going to produce or how we were going to produce it. We just knew we wanted to do something with handmade paper. And so it kind of evolved, which was just an awesome creative experience, to really have that freedom to do whatever you wanted, and to really push the boundaries. And we had some huge disasters, and we did lots of laughing. But at the end, it worked out to be something that we were invited to do the installation Art San Diego. So we did that a couple of years ago. And that was really when it started to come together as a more full vision, because we had more time to add to it. So
I think that's the nice thing about a retreat. You have a limited amount of time, you're in a situation, and a lot of times if you don't bring your materials, you have to forage for the materials to create something. So it's more of a discovery. I find it that way. It's like an R&D thing. Like you're sourcing, you're trying to bounce ideas, and like you said, you can have a disaster like crazy after a week and you go home with nothing, but that wasn't the intention. The intention was to push something in a different direction. And it does influence something down the road. You figure stuff out, but it's time you have to spend the time. You just have to spend, or you don't go there. You just don't get it.
Yeah. And I think, again, every artist has their own journey. I mean, and I know a lot of the other artists that were there with us were like, what the hell are these two people doing? They're just doing a lot of laughing and fooling around in the water. But at the end of the day, we were super, super happy. It wasn't our full vision, because partially we were developing the vision as we were creating. And I just found that so exciting. And, I love working with my sister. She's very, very creative, but she comes at things from a different angle. So between the two of us, we just had a really good synergy of idea generation and play. And at the end, again, it was about joy. Like, it was just joyful to see these pieces and to hang them from the ceiling, and you blow on them and they shift and they move. And I don't know, it was just, it's cool.
I don't know of any like siblings working together. It's sort of like husband-wife wallpapering. I don't know if I could do it. I just wouldn't. It just wouldn't happen. I don't think. It would be a disaster. And,
I think because we work, it's interesting because our work is quite different, although there's a lot of similarities with the nature and the joy and the color palettes, but there's no competition. I think, we're very collaborative, but it's also, I really respect, she's one of those people too. If I'm struggling with something, I can send it to her and she is able to articulate what's wrong in a way that helps me as an artist, because she's got the same language, and she's honest. And I know it's coming from a place of helpful criticism and not meanness,
Okay, sisters not mean at each other. Okay,
that's right. I love her. So this picture is the other picture I was going to say is the one of a kind. So that's the other thing too, is that I have 4 galleries in Toronto. I do the Artist Project in Toronto. I do a lot of outdoor shows in Toronto. So I was really looking at where is another market that I could hit in Toronto. And the one of a kind hits more of an arts and crafts market. And so it was very interesting to me that when I did this show, and I've done it now for a number of years, that there were people who had never seen my work before, which was awesome, because then it means I'm introducing the work to a whole new audience of people. So that's
so how do you work with your galleries? How do they respond to you doing all these local shows, and you show locally in their gallery as well? How do they respond to this?
I'm very transparent with my galleries, and if work is at a gallery, then I feel like a relationship with a gallery is like a relationship with a marriage. Like, I'm not going to cheat on them. I never pull work out of a gallery. If I have a client who's interested in it, I send them to the gallery. If people kind of say, hey, where can I see more of your work? I'll say, well, it's at Petrov Gallery. It's at Art Gallery. Like, go there, see the work there, look at the look at the work and talk to the gallery owners. And so I do a lot to promote the galleries that I'm working with. And I think that that's kind of the symbiotic relationship. I also appreciate that, although we can do that in Toronto because Toronto is such a huge market, in a lot of other markets you can't do that. Like the galleries will restrict kind of what you do or how many other galleries you can have in that same space.
Yeah. It's pressures that are put on an artist that shouldn't be. As long as you have a good working relationship, I think it should be that in that manner. Your prices should be probably similar or the same as you would sell in a gallery.
They're always the same. I never screw around with my pricing. So because people come to me and they say, "Oh, but if I buy this from you directly, you'd have to give it 50% to the gallery. Will you take 50% off?" I'm like, "No. What are you doing for me? The gallery's promoting me while I'm at the cottage. They're selling for me." So the price is the same at the gallery as if they go to an outdoor show or they go to the artist project. If I am starting a commission or something with somebody and in conversation it comes out, "Oh, I went to, I saw you work at Spence Gallery and I had a conversation." I'm like, "Okay, that's a Spence Gallery client. I will let Spence Gallery know and I will pay them the commission."
Yeah, no, it's, I think that's valuable in doing that. I think it's, and there's a respect, a real business way of doing your work. It builds credibility, and your audience, who's the buyer, is saying she's credible, she's honest, straight up. I can't deal under the table with this person. And then if they don't want to, they'll just walk and go somewhere else. It's not, you can't do anything about it. You can't beg someone to do those things. So,
and I know a lot of artists resent the 50% that galleries take. But having been a business owner myself, having run a marketing firm, I think that sometimes artists forget that they're running that bricks and mortar store, and they've got taxes and they've got power and they've got costs of HR. And, if the galleries are doing their jobs for you, they're promoting the work for you and they're doing openings and they're going to clients' houses. All that costs money. And so they are also running a business. And so I think as an artist, the best I can do for my galleries is to help promote my work. So it's easier for the galleries to sell my work and to be consistent, which, so that the gallery, if I'm getting a new body of work, they know what to expect.
Yeah.
And I can't say I'm always so great at, always refilling my work because I'm kind of seem to be behind right now, but that certainly I should be doing that better.
No, it's good. It gets your name out and people recognize your work and they go to the gallery and say, "Oh, I just saw that person's work at last show." And you go, so all of a sudden you made a stronger connection, that person in your work and the gallery. And now maybe the gallery will get a sale out of it too. And like you said, they do need to do those things. But
some people prefer to work with a gallery. They don't want the kind of personal connection with the artist. I think they kind of want to buy the art as it is. And I say, just in the same way that I potentially could lose a sale to the gallery, I have a long conversation, they go buy at the gallery, I think it comes out in the wash. So for me, it's let's just always do the best jobs possible, selling as much art as possible.
Yeah, and then someone will sell a piece of work off of your website, and you have to truck it down to the gallery and give it to them, and they take care of it. A sale's a sale. You have to work the floor in a number of different ways, right? But always take the high road as best you can. Really, if you're going to play below the table all the time, you're going to get beat up in the long run. You're going to be worn out and tired too. You're going to forget. It's like telling a lie. What did I sell the work for last week? What am I going to sell for this week? Right? Yeah. You can't do that. You got to move on. Now, this is one of the pieces I think was hanging on the wall, and then there's other displays. A little close-up piece. This one's on, a teal color. That's one of your favorite colors. I know that's one of your favorite colors. It's just like.
Well, so first of all, it is. I do love that color. My favorite color is pink, though. But also, it is a color that is most widely liked by other people. So,
those aquas, the aquas and the teals.
The aquas and the teals. I think that the blues, I think there's a lot of science that's behind this where it creates that calmingness in the brain. And so people like to have those colors in their homes. I find for people that are not sophisticated art buyers and they're maybe buying for the first time, blue is a comfortable color for them versus buying something that's bright orange or pink or yellow or something like that. So again, talking about having different sizes in your booth, I always have different colors in my booth as well. So to sort of show, yes, I can do bright pink or bright red, which is kind of really fun to do, but I also can do something that you can absolutely easily visualize in your home.
Right. Yeah. No, it's good. So we're going to, You not only, I think you innovated the Pie Art Square exhibition, did you not? Initially,
yes, I did.
Some other artists as well.
So Pie Art Squared, I have to say, was totally selfish because. Sorry.
It's a lot of work creating shows, events.
Yeah. So
anyway, you were saying.
So Pie Art Squared was a totally selfish innovation because I really loved circles. I wanted to do circular paintings, but people were not comfortable with them. They'd be like, well, what would I do with a circle? Where would I put a circle? So I'm like, okay, the only way I can do more circles is if I get more artists doing more circles. So I conceived of the Pie Art Squared show 6 years ago. We're doing our 6th one this year in March, Pi Day. And so I basically kind of reached out to a bunch of my friends and said, look, I want to do this circular show. I have no idea. It could be a total bust, but will you do it with me? And we'll sell the work online and we'll see what happens. We'll put it up in the gallery. We'll have an opening. It'll be really fun. And so we did that. And we now have, I think last year's show, we had 130 pieces in the gallery in Art Alchemy, which was awesome. We had a great opening. We had lots of fun. Pieces sold online. We had artists that were from across the country, some in the US, not this year because of the tariffs. It just creates too many barriers for shipping. And so it's attracted some really amazing artists, and I'm really loving the show. And I just love seeing these bubbles on the walls.
Yeah, it looked like a fun show. Circle was difficult with me on a wall because they're like portals in a ship. There's this window, and they become like targets in a house. But when you put multiple, when they become multiples, they create a different feeling. They can be fun, and especially when they start changing sizes, they give that little bubble effect, or how fun do you want it to be, right, in your home? And say, how do you deal with, 15 bubbles on your wall? I said, there's a commitment to that, but I said it creates a unique texture and a visual different than a squared up rectangle framed on your wall. I said, when you I think I initially remember seeing works done in crochet, or what were they? The needle points?
Right.
The hoops were round, and I think they still they matted and square framed them mostly, but they were still circles because the hoop was circular a lot of times, and they needle point this thing. So that's where this came from. I said, oh my, that's kind of remembrance of where did I last see circles on a wall? And I said, now I see more and more circle panels. Now these are plywood panels normally, are they not?
No, they're also Baltic birch, so they're kiln dried proper art panels. And for me, I kind of do what I call my bubble wall. So like bubbling up a staircase or around a corner. And so the sizes are all different. And the biggest one I did was for the reception area of the Boston Pediatric Hospital. And it was 22 bubbles, all in different sizes and different colors and different collections. Yeah. And they just kind of, bubbled along this wall.
I think it's a fun idea. And I think not a lot of people have these in their house, like in their homes. You don't see it traditionally. And sometimes it could be a fun move for a lot of people to try a few of these things. And I'd encourage other art groups, if they want to try something, maybe join what you're doing as well, make it a little bigger. Yeah. Do they still have time to get in? It's March 12 to 15.
No, so submissions are closed for this year. The opening is at Art Alchemy on March the 12th. So the show always runs over Pi Day, which is 3.14, so March 14th.
There you go.
And I usually do call for submissions in November. I only do it once a year because the show is quite a lot of work, but it is super fun.
Well, I encourage people to. I encourage people to come in and watch. Do you do a live opening on Instagram or something like that? Or
we usually do a live opening, and everything is available actually online. So even if you're in person, you have to buy online. So that'll be at the Art Alchemy website, which is where the store will be. Okay. And that's partially because a lot of our artists. So what happens is that artists can do up to 5 tondos, and 2 of them will be at the gallery, and 3 will be at the artist studios. And so this allows artists to ship anywhere, kind of across the country.
Okay, so I encourage people to pop in and see the show online with you, and sure. Now I included this little Christmas one. So artists, we have a season a lot of times for these things. There's kind of spring through fall shows, but there are markets for seasonal markets for like Christmas time, and for people that celebrate and they want a gift type of thing, smaller possibly, or those teaser things that a smaller thank you gifts. Yeah. So I'm assuming that this is what this Christmas show is kind of about. It's more the gifting part of it. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's interesting because I find at the Christmas shows and the holiday shows, and I do one in Chicago as well. It's kind of two. One of them is the small pieces that they're going to buy for their mother or their grandmother or their daughter or something like that. And the other is that they justify buying a painting because they're going to have the family over for dinner. So they need to put something on that dining room wall. So I find it interesting. I kind of tend to do really big ones or really small ones, but not a lot in between for those shows.
That's fun. It's just remembering that, there are shows locally, and we're going to go through now a bunch of other things that you've done here. Now this, some couple of art groups that people can join.
So this is the Society of Canadian Artists. So it's a global, or it's a national arts organization. And the reason I joined this organization is because as a kind of mid-career artist, I am at the point of my career and my age that I want to start to create a legacy so that my work will continue to grow in value for my collectors. And in order to do that, part of it is joining the SCA because it's a juried organization. To become an elected member, you're juried in. It's quite difficult to get in. And so there's kind of that maybe not, I won't say barrier to entry, but as a collector or as an art appraiser, if you're part of the SCA, then that does help to build your presence in terms of a legacy artist. Right now, we've got this call, which is an open international call to anybody globally around the world. It's the one that we do that's truly international. I think last year, a gentleman from China actually won the main prize. There's $20,000 worth of prizes to be won. So that submission closes end of February. So if you're kind of listening to it live, I recommend you at least take a look at it because it's a pretty awesome show. I got involved because I was very interested in creating more homes for contemporary artists. A lot of these organizations are very representational and landscape based, especially in Canada. Landscape is kind of our heritage. And so with this show, we have a separate contemporary jury, five-person contemporary jury, 5-person representational jury. So if you're a contemporary artist, the people who are judging your work who understand contemporary art.
Yeah. I think I judged this one before COVID. I did one of the judgings, and it's online. It's a good. I think we were 3 judges at that time before they went to this new judging process. It's quite a taxing thing. There's a ton of work to look at, and it can be overwhelming at times. Especially you don't know the artist, and you got to get the images large enough to look at, and the credibility and the things like that, and then you got to get together. Anyway, it's quite a process.
We have a pretty strict due diligence process as well. That kind of happens after the jury does their bit. So just again, to make sure that the work is actually the work of the artist and not AI generated or whatever,
Yeah. So I put in some other ones here, like the FCA, Federation of Canadian Artists. They're national. They have chapters across the country that you can be a participant in. The Ontario Society of Artists as well. They each have shows. So they're juried in. They're credible organizations. They do a lot for artists regionally and nationally. The FCA has a number of shows a year. You have to be a member to join that and be a part of those shows. In Granville and Vancouver, that's where they have one of their big galleries, and it's an ongoing 24/7 kind of gallery. They're open year round, and only their members work shows on that one. And when you do the Ontario Society of Artists shows, where do they usually show? What kind of?
They switch it up. So they have a combination of education events. They have some art retreats they have up, I think, in Manitoulin. And some of those are fundraisers as well. And then they work at the Nielsen Creative Center. And so they change where the exhibits happen. But again, I'm part of the OSA as well. So I think that for a lot of artists, you're kind of part of a number of different organizations because each organization does something different, for your artist. And again, I think it's just all about, I'm a huge fan of building your network, not in a creepy, weird way, but in terms of the more people the more people you talk to, the more you kind of get inspired by their work and understanding what other artists are doing or what opportunities are out there, or partnering with other artists to do opportunities. And, I think that's super valuable.
It's sort of equate, who you hang out with really makes a difference. It was always like in high school, if you hang out with the guys in the back row of the school in the classroom, your mark's not going to be really good. But if you move a little closer to the front and you're hanging out with a few of the other guys, you tend to, your marks are doing better, your work is actually proceeding, and you're doing better work. So I'm just saying these events draw people that are your bar. They are either at your equal or better, and you need to associate with those people. Not that you shouldn't below and help some of those other people in a nice way, but I think you need to think of yourself a little bit and say, how do I move farther ahead? How do I hang out with somebody that knows something, that is willing to share with me some knowledge, and maybe a coffee once in a while?
Yeah.
Those all make a big difference. And you meet those people at these events that are a little on the, I won't say higher end, but they're they're juried artists that are approved by other people, and a little bit that way, in a cautious way.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think it's also, a lot of times artists spend a lot of time alone, and the people they're talking to, or maybe it might be their spouse who's a banker. I mean, they don't want to talk about the benefits of cadmium yellow versus Hansa yellow. You're in a group of artists who've had those conversations. You can talk about that stuff for hours, and I do think that's really refreshing.
So you're part of this artist network and also the abstract art, and I just quickly collage some of these together. Also, we mentioned the Toronto Art Festival down below, and these are events or associations you can join or apply to join. They have physical shows. They have a juried situation. The TOF is a pop-up show in downtown Toronto, so it's they're booth spaces. So what we're going to go through now is we're going to quickly go through a number of things across the country. And
I just, if you don't mind, I just want to talk a little bit about the Artist Network, if you want to go back.
Sure,
because that is an organization that, like we were talking about, a lot of these societies and associations your art has to be at a certain level to be juried in, to be part of them. The Artist Network is a not-for-profit that helps artists with the business of art, and anybody can join. So the point is you join as an emerging artist to be able to kind of get access, like we were saying, to that mentorship. They do run the Riverdale Art Walk and Art Walk in the Square. They do run a gallery that's called Leslie Grove Gallery, and they run monthly education sessions on how to approach galleries, how to price your work, how to hang a show, how to prepare for an outdoor show. So I think that for artists who are just coming to the city or the country, who are just kind of trying to figure out what to do, this is an extraordinary network. Now, I'm biased. I was chair for 12 years, and I put that many years in because I'm very committed to helping artists be as financially successful as they want to be, right? Like, so for me, it's all about a rising tide floats all boats. So, as artists, if we can all help each other and support, we can all make money. There's no reason why artists shouldn't be able to be financially viable on their work,
Right. Yeah.
So anyway.
It's good to find, that's what we're kind of doing this. It's good to find these credible organizations that you should think about, and how to get a hold of these organizations and go to their websites. We talked about this earlier, this venue in Ottawa, and I've been here. I've just been, so it just happened, fortunate to be in the city at the same time, doing a CARFAC retreat of some kind that we're doing nationally. But it was, you go out for a break, and I went through this park, and it was so refreshing to see and talk to. Actually, I knew quite a few artists. I was surprised. Mm-hmm. And you pop in and see their work, and it's a beautiful venue, a spring one. I think it's probably can still apply if you.
Yep, applications are. I believe they're still open. I'm doing this one. I've done this for a number of years too, and again, part of it was as an abstract painter, Toronto was my main market, but you need to get out of your market, and so Ottawa was kind of close enough that I could drive there and I could do the show and just kind of expand my market. Expose my work to more people. So, but it's a great show. I really enjoy it. Again, the community is awesome.
It's fun to walk through those. This is just a smattering of some of the ones that are happening across the country. And this one's in Bellevue, the first one in, Riverwalk. And I think the other one is Nova Scotia. We've got Kingston. and Brunswick outdoor. So
most of the calls are happening now. So even though the show might be in, like, I think, September or October, the calls are now. So if you're an artist who's looking for what do I do, what do I find in my neighborhood, really this is the time where you should be kind of looking at that stuff and putting your applications together. Right. And I would suggest too signing on to Akimbo, which is also kind of posts a lot of these submissions.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, this again was just showing that major cities have big events, and whether it be in Winnipeg or Kelowna, got Edmonton, Kamloops, Calgary Stampede. Realizing, you think, what do they do? And I said, well, what would you think they would have a show? And it said, it's a high-end show, expensive show to be a part of. It's a juried show. You have to be juried in. You can't just say, I paint horses and get in. The competition is huge.
Yeah.
The commitment is also huge. You don't want to be a one-person show going in on this. You need somebody to help you. You got to be there you can't leave your booth. You got to, I think you got a chain around your ankle pretty much. You can't. But there's so many people come through, and I've had a number of friends that have been juried into that, and they did 1 year of it. I think, I don't know if they did the second year. It's a lot of work. It's taxing on you, but a lot of standing. You're on your feet a lot on these events, and it's concrete floor and all the evil stuff that goes with it.
Well, I think I was like the one of a kind in Toronto is 11 days, so it's the same sort of thing. Like, I think you have to mentally wrap your head around standing on concrete for 11 days, and I think for a lot of artists, again, the hardest part is you have to be on for 11 days or however long the Calgary Stampede is. So, you have to kind of just be just as excited to see that person that comes into your booth at 6 o'clock on the 10th day as you were on the first day, and that's hard.
So initially, these first batch of booths that we've been showing, they're mostly artist booths. Like they're artists individually having a booth space, showing their art to the public, talking to them, and it's very formal or informal, I'll call it that way. Mm-hmm. Now, there are other events across the country, the Toronto Art Fair, we've got Art Vancouver, Art Now in Saskatoon and Regina. These become gallery shows where the gallery is part of the show, not so much with Art Vancouver, but the other ones are gallery shows with artists within the gallery. So they're promoting the artists. So if you get into these galleries and they book a booth space, they usually take their better artists to those venues and promote them. So it's like you said, why do you pay 50% when you sell a piece of art? You said, well, when your gallery takes you to these events, they're exposing you to a different market. Again, the people that want to buy from galleries, they go to these events as well. So I wanted to include that in here. We were a sponsor of Art Vancouver and Art Now for a number of years, and we no longer do that, but more of a physical presence, being an online business. And it was good. The artists like to see who's behind the screen, a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's also one of my galleries, actually, they took my work recently to Affordable Art Fair Boston and Singapore. So, for example, as an artist, it's another opportunity for me to get my work in a place that I'm not going to be going to Singapore to do a show, right? So
how do you get out past your regional borders and things like that? He said it's really important to reach out, and if you got somebody to help sell your work, that's way stronger than you flogging your wares outside when you know nobody. Like, you absolutely have no contacts. It's hard to go door to door with it. I'm gonna end one of your beautiful pieces here. Nice thing to warm everybody's day in this winter day a little bit here. And
we finally have sunshine here in Toronto, thank God. It's been so cool.
I had another 5 or 6 inches of snow last night, so it was just like I shovel again, but that's okay. It's not 35 below, so we're having fun. That was great. I mean, it was quick. I mean, my goodness, we covered a lot of territory.
There's a lot of stuff.
But I appreciate you coming by and showing us your work in the context of exhibitions as well, because that knowledge becomes really important to share with other artists, and I know you're an advocate of doing that. Sharing is you don't lose by sharing. I agree. You only gain, and I think it's respect, and I hope you do well this season. I hope you have a great year.
Thank you. You too.
We'll bring David in if he didn't fall asleep or something there, and we'll see what he's doing. But there he is.
Yeah,
he always had.
I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, just compliments to you, really, Kate, because you're really on top of it, and you're thinking about, you're an artist, but you're running a business. And so I'm going to ask you what I asked a lot of our guests that come on, and some of them are deeply surprised, and some of them are also embarrassed. But if somebody wanted to purchase one of your pieces, could you give us a guesstimate of what sort of price range they're going to be?
So my little 6x6s are about $150, and they go right up to, I just sold one recently for, I guess it would be $7,000-8,000. So yeah, they're still pretty reasonable, I think, in the market. One of the reasons, just as to the point, is I'm starting to work on canvas is because people are asking for bigger and bigger pieces, and the panels are just very heavy and they're difficult to work with. So the canvas will allow me to do even bigger paintings. So I'm working on a couple of 60x60s right now.
Okay. Well, I think a lot of artists should be watching the show. I've learned a lot about the art of business and the business of art as such.
And I encourage anybody, if they have questions, reach out to me. I'm always happy to talk to artists and help them out. I got a lot of help when I started, so it's paying it forward, really.
Okay. And if anybody, sorry, Paul.
No, Kate's website is listed below, and it'll be on our tags as well on the posting, and reach out to her for sure. Yeah.
And if you can't get that far, you just want to leave some comments, leave your comments below, and we'll pass it on to Kate. Yeah, well, that's it really for me for today and for Canadian Art Today. We'd like to encourage everybody to like and subscribe. And again, thank you to Paul for bringing another fabulous guest on, and thank you to Kate for coming and talking about the business end of it, which is refreshing. That's
well, thank you for listening to me ramble. And I'm sorry I kept interrupting you, Paul. I was just so excited. It was a really great interview.
Well, David's the business guy behind him. He's the business guy. He's all about business. Well, I appreciate the opportunity as well.
I like both.
Yeah, me too. Only I can't paint. But on that bombshell, until the next time, everybody, on the Canadian Art Today. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.
Have a good week. Thank you.